From Pure Sports, Friday night of a holiday weekend for many of us, for many of you. And what does America know how to do? Well, they know how to celebrate an icon. There is sports all weekend. The NBA tonight, super wild card weekend. It's been a great week here at Run Pure Sports. I hope all of you are doing well. Before we go any further, please hit the like button, hit the subscribe button if you haven't already done so. And if you're not already a member, as I say every Friday, with a different code, use code New Year for 15% off of your first month's payment. That includes our partner SaberSim. And one of the things I've been doing recently, I haven't used SaberSim to build lineups, but I'm getting a little bit more familiar with it. And I go in there and I look and I see which under-owned player is it giving me a lot of. And the other night, AP, it was Naz Reid. It was the night that Rudy Gobert was out against the Celtics. He came in not terribly high-owned, maybe a little higher owned, probably thanks to SaberSim with so many people using him, but just a fantastic partnership there. But how are you? You are living the best life you can in an Arctic prison. It is very cold where you are, and it's going to be cold all weekend. I'm not worried about bread or water or eggs. I hope that you stocked up on enough bourbon for this weekend.
Yeah, no, actually I did. Like my wife and daughter, they're gone. So it's like my daughter does competitive dance, which is wild. And I don't have to go too often. They stream a lot of it. So like I can still watch her do her thing. But they're gone this week. And it's funny. I went to the store and I didn't pick up any of the essentials. Oh, I picked up the essentials, but I didn't pick up like the food and stuff like that. I just made sure I was stocked up on the booze. And we are stocked up, sitting good at the AP household. And I will tell you, so it's negative like 5, -7 here. I went outside and tried to shovel. I was done in 5 minutes. I'm like, nah, screw this. The wind's blowing. Like, I'm not going anywhere. I don't need a shovel. But I'm telling you, I was very, very cold. And it'll be interesting to see what, like, if the stadium is full yesterday or tomorrow in Kansas City. Like, I couldn't imagine going to that game. I could not imagine going to it.
DC, my suspicion is Buffalo is going to be out in full force. They're going to be tailgating. They're going to be throwing people through tables. They're going to be doing shots of fireball off of people's nipples. We had a good conversation, by the way, on the Old Guys Pod about nipples. Don't miss that. It's up on Apple Podcast. Kansas City, I don't know. It's miserable weather there in the summer. It's miserable weather there in the winter. You lived in Minnesota for a while where it's always miserable for the most part. How's your week? What do you think of the weather this weekend? Is it cold where you are? You're in beautiful Denver.
It's not cold yet. Well, it's cold. 30 degrees here today. Didn't stop me from getting out for a long run. But tonight, the cold sets in. It's going to be like -5, -15 wind chill for the next 3 days. And I'm almost halfway through dry January over here in Denver, which you guys know me. That's a challenge for me to go 30 days with no alcohol. This weekend is going to be a test because it's freezing. There's football on all weekend. And normally what I would do on Saturday and Sunday on a weekend like this, with this weather, with this good of football, I'd be putting back a few, but can't do it this weekend. I'll be grinding every slate, playing every showdown instead. And should be fun, a fun weekend of football regardless. To answer your question, I'm actually you said I live in Minnesota. You forget there's a famous photo of me with 8 jackets on and a Teddy Bridgewater jacket over the top. I went to the coldest, I think it was the coldest NFL game of all time, Seahawks, Vikings in the first round of the playoffs. I think I got free tickets from DraftKings. I think I spent like $500 on winter clothing to try to survive the game, when the tickets themselves were like reselling for like $22 or something. So that was a somewhat miserable experience. I don't know if I'll do it again. It was, I guess, sort of fun to do it once, except the Vikings lost on a missed last second, like chip shot field goal, which made the 4 hours of suffering maybe not worth it. But yeah, I think the Chiefs fans will show out anyway. Maybe. I mean, it's been a little bit of a disappointing year. We'll see with the Chiefs fans, but I mean, it's a crazy slate where two of the teams that we love to target traditionally, teams like the Bills, the Chiefs, the Miami Dolphins, teams with traditionally great offenses, are going to have to play in these horrible conditions, which I think are really going to slow down the Dolphins in particular, the passing games all the way around. And then we've got, some games in domes, like a Joe Flacco, CJ Stroud stack, I think could do some damage. So really looking forward to the weekend of football for sure.
Hey, real quick, DC, it's funny you bring that game up because I was working on the Saturday playbook for NFL. We're doing a playbook that has every single game, so the entire slate, and then each individual day, the Saturday and Sunday. Yeah. But I was looking it up since KC. I'm like, I got to see like the coldest games on record, and that's one game I looked at. It was a 9-10 game. Seahawks win, right? Yep. And they scored a touchdown in the fourth quarter. There you go. Yeah. You were at that game? It was like minus like 28.
It was so there was a 2-year period between when they tore down the Metrodome and when the new stadium was constructed. They played at the Gophers Stadium outside. It was seriously so fucking cold. I barely made it. Yeah.
The coldest I've ever been was a late December game in Pittsburgh. The Jets were playing the Steelers, and it was so cold that I went to get a hat because obviously I have nothing to protect my precious skull. And the hats were sold out, but for a medium-sized ladies' pink Steeler hat. And I said, give it to me. Yeah, give it to me. I don't care. I'm freezing. I will wear this pink hat. I used to have some photos of it, but you really don't care when you're that cold, guys. I mean, you're just like, give me something that will make me feel like I'm not dying. But anyway, that is football. That is what's going to come. We've got a Morning Wood show tomorrow. AP, we're doing a Off the Chalk show at 11 a.m. on Sunday, special edition. We all get to sleep in. And, of course, there's that Sunday 3-game slate, which is, as is tomorrow, the 2-game or the marquee slate. But we've got a marquee NBA slate tonight. 8 games, DraftKings and FanDuel, breaking up the slates for us out of generosity so we can make lineups until 8 o'clock and then go out and live life like humans, unless, of course, you're barricaded at home because it's unsafe to go outside due to the freezing temperatures. Luckily, I'm not in that environment just yet here in Atlanta. But go ahead, hit the like button. Alex needs my detailed injury reports game by game today. Well, guess what, Alex? You're in luck because there are a lot of injury reports. And I'm not overlooking Benair. I'm flat out ignoring him because he's just not as entertaining right now as I need him to be. We'll get into it with the first game of the night, Sacramento in Philadelphia, AP. This seems like it could be one of the marquee games of the night. The spread here is just 1. The total 241.5. We saw the other night what this Philadelphia defense looks like. We've seen it really a lot of times this season without Joel Embiid. It's not very good, which means that there's fast pace. There's points scored. The Kings, Domantas Sabonis, Keegan Murray have been absolutely outstanding so far this week. Now, matchups against the Pistons, matchup against the Charlotte Hornets. But like I said, not a lot of defense being played around the rim here for the Philadelphia 76ers. The full injury report, Alex, I will give to you for Philadelphia. Robert Covington, Joel Embiid, and Kenneth Lofton Jr. are out of this one. For Sacramento, it's just Kevin Huerter who is going to miss, which can save us all from having to click his name because he's starting, because it just has not been his season. AP, the Kings and the 76ers seems like a good game to target. What say you?
Yeah, Kevin Huerter, he got back to starting lineup or his starting job and then gets hurt. And now it's back to Chris Duarte, likely like a placeholder, but really the play is Malik Monk. He grades out really well. I have him as a core play tag to build around. His production, like what he's been doing is really nice. I like the fact that he comes off the bench, but we're all smart. We all see what's going on. Like, and the projection systems are all very smart as well. And so he's going to grade out very, as a very good play across the board here, among a lot of the sites out there that are projecting these type of things. So 6,200, Malik Monk in a pace-up matchup. That's one thing. Philadelphia plays at a slightly faster pace when they're more efficient offensively with Joel Embiid, obviously, but they play with more pace when he's off the court because they can run with Maxey and a smaller ball type of lineup. So, this game, 241 total. It's going to be one that we should have a ton of interest in. On the Philly side, the piece is what I like. We often talk about that target tree in NFL, and I know I've brought this up in NBA a few times now. DC's probably tired of hearing it. But on Philly, it's really becoming very defined in this situation with Joel Embiid out. It's Tobias Harris. It's Tyrese Maxey. We saw it last game in a matchup against the Hawks that went to overtime. You had to have a piece of that game. It absolutely nuked. This spot is very similar, in my opinion, as far as like De'Aaron Fox plays with a lot of pace, and the Kings play with a lot of pace. Obviously, Sabonis is a different animal and a beast down in the interior, and it's going to be very, very difficult on Paul Reed. On Philly, it's Maxey, it's Tobias. Those are kind of the key guys for me. The secondary pieces, Nicholas Batum. I just don't know if I'm going to get there. Marcus Morris, likely not. I'm going to stick with the key usage guys. And then on the Kings side, you have a nice run back in Malik Monk there. Keegan Murray is in that same. So if you just look at the short-term matchup data, power forwards have done very, very well against this team. Jalen Johnson had a monster game. Lauri Markkanen before him. And so if you're looking at more of a targeting a matchup, Keegan Murray in that same spot. Keegan Murray's been playing really, really well. I think with Keegan Murray, you got to get there. You got to get there via raw scoring more so than through like peripheral stats. And he's been lights out, man. He's a great 3-point shooter. He's going to have looks. You're going to get double-digit field goal attempts here in this matchup. And so Keegan Murray, Malik Monk, two guys that I like, Tyrese Maxey and Tobias on the other side. Sabonis is the guy that I'm curious to see where you guys are at here. I keep like being underweight on him. And in some of these spots, I get absolutely destroyed by not having him. So curious to see what you guys are doing with Domantas Sabonis.
He's been on a tremendous run. And as we saw when Joel Embiid has missed, it's been a great matchup for opposing centers. 10-2 now for him. The only thing that I can say against him, DC, is that there's some other centers at lower price points that I think are viable and able to match him points per dollar that would allow you to maybe spend up at another position. The other thing that I'll say, just a slight disagreement, is I hate to say this, but Marcus Morris at 4K is somewhat in play. It depends on what we think of the Miami value, that you may not need him. You may not want to take that risk, but he's been playing a ton of minutes, and he's actually been playing well with Covington and Embiid out, DC. What are you seeing here, the Kings and the 76ers?
A lot of the same things that AP was saying. I do think this is a really good game to kick us off. We do have a half hour later start time, 3 games in this early window. And yeah, I mean, Sacramento, they lose Kevin Huerter now. Like the main guys for Sacramento, it's Fox, Monk, Keegan Murray, Domantas Sabonis. I know that's 4 guys, but man, beyond them, Sacramento has just nothing, right? Like Harrison Barnes, just a really low usage guy, low points per minute, DraftKings points per minute guy. Duarte doesn't do much on the court. And so you just know where the minutes and usage are going to go on Sacramento. I know these guys, and I think, Sacramento's I think all of them are fairly priced. Fox is my least favorite among the bunch. I think I would rank them in my preference of putting them on my own rosters. Monk 1, Keegan Murray 2, Sabonis 3, Fox 4, but I do like all 4 guys. I think all 4 guys have good games. I don't think I would play Monk and Fox in particular together, but yeah, man, I mean, Sabonis has been absolutely crushing it. I think he'll be lower owned. You mentioned JT. Center's loaded. I'm seeing like 6 or 7 of the top point per dollar values on the slate look like they're coming from the center position. So to lock in an expensive center at the best position on the first game of the night, you could poke some holes in that strategy, but not if Sabonis goes for 70, right? Which he absolutely could in this matchup. So yeah, a lot of interest on Sacramento, some interest on the Philadelphia side, pretty much the same guys that AP mentioned. Tobias Harris 1, Tyrese Maxey 2, but I like the Sacramento side better a little bit here. But yeah, really, really good game to kick us off. And if you want to, you can take several pieces from this game because it is expected to be close. It does have a high total, and you do know for the most part where the production is going to come from. So really good game to start off the slate.
And just 2 time blocks. So you've got 3 games at 7:30 and then 5 games at 8 o'clock. And of course, we're going to talk about another center at 7:30 that's $2,000 cheaper than Domantas Sabonis in a matchup that is just a dream matchup. But we'll talk about that here after this next game. DC. The next game, I don't like this spot. It feels like this could be a one-sided game here, but I'll let you guys talk about this one. Indiana heading here into Atlanta. Hawks favored by 5.5, 251.5 total, and a huge injury report, Alex. So you're going to be excited about this one. For the Hawks, it is Clint Capella and Trae Young who have been upgraded to probable. DeAndre Hunter remains out, as does Wesley Matthews. On the Pacers side, we know that Tyrese Halliburton is out. Kendall Burton, Aaron Nesmith, Jalen Smith, Oscar Shibui, Isaiah Wong, all questionable, and Harase Walker is going to miss this game. So don't worry about looking for him on DraftKings DC. Rick Carlisle, maybe the funniest comment that I've heard in the last several months was, well, without Tyrese, we're going to have to run 10 or 11 deep. He's been running 10 or 11 deep. Not much changes. There's more usage to go around, but you just don't know where it's going to go. What are your thoughts here, Pacers and Hawks?
Yeah, I played a lot of Indiana on, I think that was Wednesday, against the Wizards, whatever day that was.
Yep.
And yeah, it was frustrating. You know, I like Nesmith, I was high on. He got off to a rough start, and they dust off, Jordan Nwora, and Nesmith loses minutes. So we'll see what they do. I mean, if Nesmith and Jalen Smith are out, then I do think you could look to some of the Indiana value. Listen, the minutes are not secure, but I've been saying it about Indiana for a while. Outside of Halliburton, the minutes go to the guys that are playing well for the most part on a night-to-night basis, which I think it does present opportunity to get low-owned plays that can go off because it's obviously correlated the two, right? Your player gets off to a good start, they're going to get more minutes, and then they can absolutely smash. So I'm waiting on the Nesmith and Jalen Smith news. If those guys are in, much less interest in Indiana. I think McConnell will crush in his minutes, but you can't pay I just can't pay the $7K for someone that might play 22, 23 minutes, even if they're doing well off the bench. So I probably won't go there. And I mean, a massive total here, 251, but I'm not finding myself going to too much in this game unless we get some of these guys ruled out. So I guess I'll be hoping it goes under the total, which I do think there's a chance of that. I don't think I think these totals are too high for Indiana right now without Halliburton because it just changes your whole offense, right? You take out that player who is the guy who sets up everybody, who runs the entire offense, like as much as anybody in the entire league do, who he's the identity of the team. And so you take him off the court and the offense bogs down a little bit, and that kind of carries over to the other side as well. They got to focus more on defense when they can't run with Halliburton for 40 minutes a game. So I like the under here, and I'm a little bit lower on this game, I think, than the field will be.
AP, the other night, the only Pacers that I played were Obi Toppin and Miles Turner, and I just kind of laughed when in the first quarter I saw that Jordan Nwora was in the game because you kind of knew what you were in for here with that rotation running super deep. I kind of think this is a spot where with a fully healthy Hawks team, Capella probable, Trae Young probable, a letdown spot here for Indiana, and maybe this is one where the rotation for the Pacers gets even wilder because I can see it not being all that competitive. What are your thoughts, though, Pacers and Hawks?
Yeah, a big total, and I do agree with a lot of what DC said. A tick down in pace with Halliburton off the court. I'm still not convinced that it's a huge bump down in pace. We saw 103 possessions in the last game, and that was with if you just, and I know I've been bitching about it for a while, but DeLon Wright is terrible, and I'm talking about the Wizards when they matched up against Indiana. He just plays so slow. He's terrible. Like TJ McConnell, I was texting DC, like TJ McConnell blew by him like 6 times. I mean, it was hilarious to watch. But the Atlanta, they play with so much pace. And so I do, and you have better offensive efficiency. So I 100% get what DC's saying. It's a big total. I wouldn't blame anyone, for taking the under here. A rule of mine is these Hawks, I can't play the under in their game. And the Pacers, my rule there is if Halliburton is out, you can play it. So you kind of have it both ways there. As far as like plays go, I do think DeJounte Murray is a little interesting at 7,200. I want the guy who is going to attack the rim. One thing that we saw with Jordan Poole in this matchup last time, he got whatever he wanted. It was really crazy. Wes Unseld should have kept him in there or given him a much better rotation because Poole was getting to the rim. His shot wasn't even that good. He just was getting easy buckets. They just are lacking rim protection. They got Miles Turner. He's a good shot blocker. But again, defensively, that's what I saw. Maybe Jalen Smith being back and playing, maybe that helps out a little bit, but I'm not too convinced there. So DeJounte Murray, Trae Young, I think you could consider those guys. I think it's more the uptick in pace and the price tag on DeJounte that has me somewhat interested. But again, on the Pacers side, I agree with everything that I think both of you said. Deep rotation, very difficult to play. I do have interest in Jalen Smith. If he starts at 5K, I think he's fine. But like Bruce Brown, I would not chase it. It was a perfect spot, perfect matchup, and he just got going in that first half. I would not chase it with Bruce Brown. It was kind of an outlier performance, in my opinion. With this Pacers team, it could be Nembhard. It could be TJ McConnell. We're not going to pay 7K for TJ McConnell. So the Pacers side, much easier to be underweight or fade outside of Jalen Smith for me. And the Hawks side, it's DeJounte Murray. And Jalen Johnson, he's been awesome. The price tag is just getting up there. They're getting healthier. It's tougher to trust that. And then Clint Capella, as long as he's not in any type of minutes limit, I do think in tournaments, larger field tournaments, we like centers against the Pacers. I do think he's someone to consider as well.
All right, we will move on. Houston at Detroit. Houston favored by 9, 225.5 total. AP, this Detroit team has been miserable and just miserable in terms of rotations. Monty Williams looks lost. The team looks lost. The rotations. And now you have, after a couple of good productive games by some of their key players, all the prices are up. But they do have an injury here. Getting to the injury news, Bojan Bogdanovic has been ruled out. Cade Cunningham remains out. But Isaiah Stewart returns for the Pistons. And Stanley Umude is available in this one. For Houston, Dylan Brooks and Tari Eason remain out. And the thing here is they just continue to price Fred VanVleet at 7,900 on DraftKings in this matchup. Alperen Şengün looks like a very interesting play here if this game stays close for even 2.5 quarters. And Jabari Smith Jr. looks like he is also underpriced for the matchup on DraftKings. What are your thoughts, AP? Pistons hosting the Rockets.
I wouldn't be surprised if we saw a change to the starting lineup. Now it's 7:30 Eastern game. Obviously, that's when the slate starts, so we're going to get this news. But in the second half, last game against the Bulls, we did see them switch it up. Jayshawn Tate, absolute cheeks, DC, called it. He got sent to the bench. It was Jeff Green that got the start in the second half. Cam Whitmore, though, played a lot. So that's going to be the guy that I think we have a lot of interest in. And that's industry-wide from what I'm seeing. So I would still like to see him start. I think in this matchup, there is some risk because this Pistons team's bad, and they're going to be very bad tonight with this lineup. I mean, if this game stays close, it has to be all Jaden Ivey and Jalen Duren getting it done, and then some support from Alec Burks off the bench. But these other pieces have just been really bad. My one last comment here too is the last time these two teams played, they played in Houston. It was a blowout, I believe. We did see the Thompson twins play against each other, and Amen Thompson got some extended run. So 3,600, if you believe in a little bit of brotherly matchup narrative there. You could consider Amen Thompson and Oscar Thompson. I just don't know. I don't think I can get there. There's other plays that I think are going to be much better at the forward position. So for me, it's pretty much under on the Pistons unless we see some sort unless we knew Isaiah Stewart wasn't going to have any type of minutes cap. I'm not convinced that that's the case. I do think the Pistons side easier fade here. And then on the Rockets, it is, I didn't talk a lot about Şengün, but such a big matchup for him. hopefully you get the full minutes if you play him, because I think he'd be a very good play, but he's still a guy that could crush in limited time. And Jabari Smith, too, if the game stays close, I do worry. He's about a fantasy point per minute producer. If it was a close game, I would have interest in it. 6,200 seems like a nice discount, but really it's Cam Whitmore. And I would love to see him in the starting lineup, but I'm not entirely sure. I think he gets decent run either way, though.
DC, the Rockets and the Pistons.
I'll start with the Pistons, who I'm off the Pistons this game. I mean, Bogdanovich, they're without their two best players right now. I mean, Cade Cunningham, Bogdanovich. I actually think Cunningham, obviously, the more talented dude, but Bogdanovich is their best player, right? Their veteran, the guy that the glue that kind of holds that team together, such as it is. Obviously, they still fall apart, but like without him, I just think this team is just going to be just absolute cheeks tonight. And I think they could play 10, 11, 12 guys searching for something, and none of it's going to work against Houston. So I'm off Detroit. 8 games to choose from. Value, there's some good value. I'm not going to Detroit. The Houston side, though, is very interesting. I mean, they're going to put up points against Detroit. They're going to be efficient. And they're a little shorthanded, obviously, missing Tate and Dylan Brooks. So, yeah, I think they make a lot of sense. And Cam Whitmore, it does feel a little bit like chasing, right? Coming off of his biggest minutes game of his career, played 33 minutes in that overtime game. But, he has been really good this year, well over a fantasy point per minute when he's gotten on the court. He didn't start getting in the rotation until, I think, mid-December, somewhere in there, and has kind of slowly seen his role increase to the point where, they benched Jason Tate for good reason. Cam Whitmore has been shooting the lights out from 3, and against Detroit, you get all the wide open shots that you want. So I do think Whitmore is going to get his 15 to 20 minutes kind of at a minimum. And if you look at the last 3 blowouts for Houston, Whitmore closed all 3 of them. So not a guarantee that he would close, especially if he's, kind of a more prominent member of the rotation now. But it kind of seems like you'll get either one, right? Either he's playing a bunch of minutes in the regular rotation, or maybe he gets fewer, but he closes a blowout, which I think is pretty likely, honestly, for Houston in this game. So I do like Cam Whitmore. Seeing a question about ownership, I'm seeing between 10 and 15%, depending on what other value pops up. I think that's reasonable for a $4,300 player who's a good point per minute guy in this matchup. So I do like Cam Whitmore. I think you can choose one of Van Vliet or Sengun. I don't really want to play both, just because if they're both going off, I think they're not playing much in the fourth quarter. We saw that last game against Detroit. Houston won by 23. Sengun got 27 minutes. Van Vliet got 26 minutes. Neither of them played a single second in the fourth quarter. So I think you got to kind of choose between the Houston studs. One of Jabari, Sengun, Van Vliet makes sense to me, but I'm definitely not loading up on Houston, even though I expect those guys to be awesome in their minutes. I just think if you play too many of them, you're kind of setting yourself up for disappointment at the end of the night.
All right, hit the like button. 387 watching, not quite 100 likes. Definitely need to get to 150. We'll set the number at 150. It's a holiday weekend. So in honor of that, we will lower the number of likes you need. So get to 150. You get the plays of the day. I can guarantee you, Daniel Marnoff, that 11% on Whitmore, I can't guarantee you because it depends on what happens with Miami, who Miami starts, what news we get there, what positions are available. But I think that 11% could be higher. Marketell's the back. What about Ivy? I think Ivy's too expensive with this matchup and with that rotation. I think, he's going to be the primary ball handler for the most part, but I think there are much better plays from what I heard from the guys. They believe that as well. We'll move into the 8 o'clock Eastern window. DC, the Clippers head into Memphis. Clippers favored by 8.5, a 224.5 total for Memphis. Of course, John Morant is going to miss the season. Santi Aldama and Musa Diabate are out for this one. Jacob Gilyard, Jaren Jackson, Gigi Jackson, Jake LaRavia are all available. On the Clippers side, fully healthy. So what are your thoughts here, Clippers and Memphis?
So probably not going to much LA Clippers here with them fully healthy. It's crazy how healthy the Clippers have stayed in general, by the way, halfway through the season. And all these guys are still playing pretty much every night, which I certainly wouldn't have expected. But it's just hard to go to a fully healthy Clippers team on an 8-game slate at those price points for me personally. Memphis, though, is very interesting. I mean, you kind of feel bad for them in a sense, right? They're missing Smart and Morant all season long, essentially. They finally get these guys back, and then they both go down with serious injuries. Morant out for the year. What's Smart? I think he's, out 6 weeks. Like, this team is in some dire straits. They released Bismack Biyombo, who is their starting center. Aldama's not going to play in this game. I mean, I think there's a pretty good chance that Memphis gets the doors blown off here. But, like, they are at home. It's only an 8-point spread. If they keep this game close, I mean, Desmond Bane has to do everything for this team right now. Missing Morant, missing Rose, missing Marcus Smart. They really don't have anyone else to create offense for him. So I do think Desmond Bane, listen, I don't like that $9,100 tag. I don't really like the matchup either, but I do think his upside is really, really high given the role that he's going to have on this team. I don't hate pairing him with a Jaren Jackson, maybe a Xavier Tillman, depending on what they roll out for the starting lineup. The both Williams guys, Vince Williams, Zaire Williams, I think are interesting value plays just because they're so shorthanded right now. And if you're Memphis, I mean, let's be honest, this is a lost season, right? What are you going to try to do? Develop kind of your younger players. So both those guys, I think, should be in line for big minutes on a nightly basis. So, I like Memphis. They make me a little bit nervous, but they have so few guys left that I think we'll see some flame emojis by the Grizzlies players at the end of the night.
AP, the Clippers and Memphis 8.5-point underdogs at home. And prices are pretty high on these Memphis guys. I understand they're shorthanded. Just hard to see getting there, at least for me, on this slate. What are your thoughts on the Clippers and Memphis?
Yeah, so Clippers, they play at a much slower pace, averaging like 101 possessions per game, which is pretty slow in today's NBA. Grizzlies, I mean, man, shorthanded, but still, they do have bodies. I think they have, 11 active, maybe 12, but I don't see them going to like a 12. I see Jenkins doing what Jenkins typically does, 9 to 10-man type of rotation there. We saw David Roddy had a really nice game last game, but obviously Jaren Jackson was out. And I still think he gets minutes. Vince Williams and Zaire Williams were both fine. Luke Kennard in that shooting guard spot should get some run here. But we had Marcus Smart back last game. They showed up. They went in and beat Dallas, which was insane. Dallas came back without Luka last night and looked incredible. I could like that team looked so completely different from what we watched against the Grizzlies at home the other night. And I was obviously on the Dallas side of that game, just knowing that JJJ was going to sit. Man, I think they get blown out here. The Clippers have been really, really good. They play slow. They play good defense, and they're efficient on offense. They're really starting to find things. I think I heard something or read something. Man, when they have this since the trade, when Kawhi Leonard plays, I think they're undefeated, and I think that continues tonight. Obviously, they're big favorites here. So I'm a little bit cautious. I think there's just better spots that we talked about in that earlier window, and then a couple other spots that we're going to talk about here shortly too. So I find myself I'm under on the Clippers studs. That's Paul George, Kawhi, Harden, and Zubac. Could bite me if the game stays close, but again, you got to kind of cherry pick who it's going to be. Like you could have an individual outlier performance from a Paul George or Kawhi Leonard, but trying to predict and project who it's going to be is always the difficult part. So it comes down to what are you doing? Are you multi-entering? Are you building 1 to 3 lineups? With that type of approach, your answer on how you attack this game could obviously change. But for me tonight, I find myself underweight on the spot.
All right, we're moving to 150 likes is the number to get to. If you have questions about the slate in chat, please go ahead and break up whatever the hell is going on in there. We would be happy to take questions about the slate. Hit the like button and subscribe, especially if you're maybe other places that you watch have lost some people lately, then go ahead and subscribe to us. We'll move on to the next game, AP. Orlando at Miami. And Alex, you're in for a treat because there's a lot of injury news in this game. Miami favored by 2, a very, very elite 219.5 total in this game. On the Miami side, we've got Jimmy Butler, Tyler Herro, and Kyle Lowry will be out. RJ Hampton is in. Caleb Martin is in. And it looks like, at least I heard somewhere, that RJ Hampton is maybe going to start here for the Heat. On the Orlando side, Gary Harris and Jonathan Isaac are out, as well as Franz Wagner. Wendell Carter is questionable, but Cole Anthony, Joe Ingles, and Admiral Schofield, the Admiral AP, he's going to suit up tonight. Any interest in the Admiral or anyone else in this Magic and Orlando and Miami Heat game?
Yeah, the one thing when we typically break down Orlando Magic games, the thing that we typically talk about is slower paced team, a team that plays decent to good defense. But with all of their key guys out, it just has not been, they haven't been as sound defensively. And you've been able to attack them, especially in the interior, attacking Goga there. Just some recent performance. Gobert had a really nice game. Jokic, obviously Sabonis put up a monster number. Yusuf Nurkic as well. Paul Reed. Gafford had a big game against them. Miles Turner. So you've really been able to attack the front court here of Orlando with all of these injuries that they're dealing with. And that has me interested in a guy named Bam Adebayo. When Bam is in there and there's no Jimmy, which we've seen this for a while now, and then now no Tyler Hero, Bam runs the show. He really does. He does a lot offensively and defensively, and we've just seen how good this Heat team is. Like, no matter who's in there, it's really impressive what Spoelstra's been doing. I need to go in and put a bet on the Heat side. I will take. I mean, both teams are without a lot of pieces, but I like the Heat pieces plus Spoelstra just a little bit more. Obviously, then on the other side, the Orlando Magic side, it's really Paulo or bust. That's how it's been. Like Chuma Okeke is terrible. I guess Jalen Suggs too, but again, he's in that Malik Monk range, and I like Malik Monk a little bit more, obviously. And you don't have to deal with the Cole Anthony, Markelle Fultz, kind of that three-man backcourt there. So for me, it's Paulo or move on. Paulo at 9-2. I'm really curious to see if that keeps ownership down. Also coming off a down game. But again, that was against the Wolves. The Wolves are a very, very, very good defensive team. Now he gets a little bit better of a matchup here against Nikola Jovic on the other side. Jaquez as well. I mean, so yeah, I think it's a much better spot for Paulo if you can get up to him. I think he's going to make for a really strong tournament play. But Bam is what I want. I just think maybe he goes a little bit overlooked because people are going to look at that matchup against Orlando that has historically been slower paced and better defensive. But in the short-term metrics, hasn't really been the case. We've seen some nice, decently paced up spots in their recent matchups. So sign me up for Bam. And then obviously Josh Richardson, the guy I didn't talk about, should get a lot of run here, running the offense as well. With Miami very, very thin at the guard position.
Played Josh Richardson the other night. He was the only non-flaming.
I was thinking about that.
That
lineup that I was talking to you about. Oh, that lineup was so good. What'd you score? 372 or something?
370 something. 370 something.
Yeah. It was a nice line.
It was nice. All right, DC. We've got Orlando at
what was that?
What are your thoughts?
What is that? You, JT, playing the?
Not sure who that was.
All right. No, it wasn't me. So at least two options. Yeah, I think this game pretty interesting. Seeing some Caleb Houston talk in chat. I would be a little bit careful with that. Firing from deep the last couple of games, but I think that could go the other way in a hurry.
Would you have to be making 600 lineups to get to Caleb Houston tonight, or how many deep do you think you would before you got there?
All I can say is more than the 3 that I have. I'm not getting to Caleb Houston on the 3.
Fair enough.
I think I would get to him on 600 lineups. Yes, I think that's, if I had what would it take? 4 lives, 5 lives to get to 600. Not going to happen for old DC over here. The Miami side I think is interesting. I don't mind the Adebayo call. I'm a little worried that just the offense has to change so much. No Lowry, no Butler, no Tyler Hero. I think Adebayo is kind of someone that sort of has to operate kind of within the confines of a highly functioning offense to really be at his best. So I don't necessarily see him as someone who benefits hugely from these guys being out. The guy that I'm looking at most from Miami is Nikola Jovic, who's been in the starting lineup, has played well. If you look at the numbers with the 3 creators really off the court for Miami and Butler, Hero, and Lowry, it's a pretty small sample size, but Jovic has played really well. I think the minutes are going to be there. They have been the last couple of games. He's cheap. So he's a guy that I like. And then I like the Banchero call too. I think Fultz being back could eventually slow him down a little bit, but I love this matchup for him. Whoever it is, Jaquez, Jovic, Highsmith. I think Banchero is the key piece for Orlando tonight. So I like him quite a bit. He's my favorite player in Orlando by a wide margin. I'm with UAP. I can't play Suggs over Malik Monk, especially at a more expensive price point. I just can't do it. So I'm off of Suggs. Banchero, really the guy from Orlando that I'm looking at, and Jovic on Miami, my favorite player for them.
I personally am interested in seeing, I think there's some usage here that's going to open up for Jaime Jaquez Jr., and he's now at just 6K. So I'm really interested to see what he does with that extra usage and with those minutes. And as you both mentioned, Jovic has been starting and playing really well. And now without Tyler Hero, maybe they're going to need some more scoring. Maybe it comes from him as well. We need to get to that 150 like numbers to keep that up. Move on to the next game. And man, boys, DC, AP, did we make a tremendous mistake last night playing some lineups as if the Portland Trailblazers were going to in any way keep up with the Oklahoma City Thunder, and completely ruined my Sam Hauser call. I was very proud of myself. He was in many of the winners, but when he was paired with Scoot Henderson and Chet Holmgren in a game that was 60-point differential, I think, early in the third quarter, it just didn't matter. Portland now heads to Minnesota, facing an at least equally good team in the Timberwolves, if not a team that is maybe slightly better at home. Minnesota favored by 16, 220.5 total. Rudy Gobert remains questionable. He did miss the last matchup against the Celtics, which opened the door for a lot of the Wolves' second unit guys to get there. Mike Conley is going to play in this game. On the Portland side, DeAndre Ayton is doubtful. Shadon Sharp is going to miss this game after leaving yesterday's game. Malcolm Brogdon is going to play, and Jabari Walker is going to play. DC, we saw that really the only Oklahoma City Thunder player that got there was Josh Giddey. Is there any case you can make for any of these Timberwolves, knowing what this game is likely to look like?
No, I'm completely off this game. The Wolves have obviously had a tremendous season. They have been on a little bit of a skid. I think they've lost 3 of their last 5. They've played the last 4 games on the road. Now they return home, after a kind of a tough road trip. Friday night, I know, I've been to many Wolves games. It's a tough ticket to get right now. It'll be a packed house. I think the Wolves play really, really well tonight, win this game by 20, 30 plus points. Portland is just dreadful. There's quite a few teams that are just horrendous, but Portland right there among them. And I think this is a spot where the Timberwolves are going to be focused, playing well, playing with energy. And I don't see this game going well for Portland whatsoever. So I'll be rooting for a blowout. I've already bet Minnesota up to win by like minus 23, I think, on several different bets. I think they win this game handily. And obviously for DFS purposes, that will mean it's very, very difficult to try to predict who might get there. So I'll be off this game entirely for DFS.
AP, DC laddered this game all the way up to a 23-point victory by Minnesota. It could be much more than that. With the Portland Trailblazers, this is a spot where we've looked and said, hey, maybe if we need some value, we can look to the backups of the other team. The problem is because of the injury to Gobert the other night and how well the Minnesota backups did, now they're all priced up and really don't provide a lot of value. What are your thoughts here, Portland and Minnesota?
Yeah, I echo a lot of what DC said. I mean, if you think the game stays within striking distance at all, I mean, one, you need Brogdon to play here and to provide a lot of support off the bench. I mean, Scoot Henderson has been horrendous. He's been terrible. I think it was Bryce that talked about how bad he was yesterday, but before the game started on our show, and then he goes off to have one of the worst performances that we've seen in the NBA. I mean, it was absolutely insane. He was Scoot. Yeah.
Scoot had a great first half. He had a great first half. He was sitting at 20 points at halftime.
It must have been from a plus minus standpoint. I just saw
from a real basketball perspective.
From a real basketball perspective, not fantasy wise. But he's just been an absolute disaster. But I will say, again, it comes down to what are you doing if you're building like 1 to 3. I lean the DC side. I'm off this game. If you're multi-entering, I would, like, if I was playing 150, I would consider guys like Naz Reid and stuff off the bench. I mean, this Portland team is that bad where Naz Reid getting 25 minutes, he could absolutely smash in the right, game environment. And so, again, he's 5,700. I just can't get there with my style of play. But what I'm saying is, at the end of the night, a 1% owned Naz Reid, would I be surprised if he had a 40 piece in 26 minutes against this Portland team? I wouldn't. So you could make the same case for Anthony Edwards as well. The price tag is far more intriguing at 8,900, but is he going to be playing in the fourth quarter? I don't think so. I'm with DC. I like the laddered bet there. I think that's really sharp. I think the Wolves are gonna play up and get this one over with early. So again, it's one I'm going to be underweight on, but if you're multi-entering, I wouldn't fully cross it off because you could see some outlier performances, much like we saw last night with Josh Giddey. And shout out to our guy JSU. JSU had him very high up in his tournament rankings that you can find over at Rumpier Sports. And when I saw that, I was like, JSU might have a little not inside information, but a little spot here with Josh Giddey. And Josh Giddey did very well. He was phenomenal. I mean, and how many minutes did he play? Like 21 or 22? I mean, he did not play many minutes, and he had a triple-double very, very quickly. So I would not be surprised if Anthony Edwards could do something very similar tonight.
All right, 2 games left. We need, as of a few minutes ago, we needed 6 likes to get to 150. I think we're going to get there. Someone named Bad Boy Demon Z believes that the Blazers are actually an NBA team, and he thinks that it's a bounce-back spot for the Blazers to keep the game competitive against the Timberwolves, which is interesting. Golden State heading into Chicago, AP. Chicago favored by 3 points, 228.5. Total here, Chicago fully healthy, Golden State without Draymond and Moses Moody. And when I looked at Golden State's pricing, the rotations are difficult. However, there are some cheap pieces here. Chicago's rotation, of course, is morphing back to where they were earlier in the season. Zach LaVine and Nikola Vucevic started last game. What are your thoughts here, the Warriors and the Bulls?
I think from a betting standpoint, it's a great spot to back the Bulls. I'm already seeing like the line move more in favor of Chicago. So I would get it now. I don't think that's going to change. Golden State has not been good. Coming off blowout loss to the Pelicans, big loss to the Raptors. They beat the Pistons, but that's the Pistons. The Pistons are horrible. And a loss there to the Nuggets. Man, Golden State, absolutely a mess right now. And then on the other side, Chicago playing some decent basketball and getting pieces back. So I think it's a great betting spot. I think we get 4 wins in a row from the Chicago Bulls team. Now, I was hesitant to play Zach LaVine last game, and he came out and proved me wrong. He absolutely nuked. And I thought he was going to be a little bit higher owned than what he was, because he was like 68 or 6,900. And LaVine always gets himself a nice projection. So I just thought he had to be a little bit higher owned there, and he wasn't. And it was one of those plays where, 68, 6,900 for LaVine. If he's going to be low owned, I'm interested. But if he's going to be somewhat chalk, I'm not as interested. And, I got that one wrong for sure. Now he's 7,400. I don't mind the matchup here. He looked awesome against Houston. 25 points, 13 rebounds, 7 assists, 4 stocks. This Bulls team, you see it, you get a tight rotation. You got to like what they're doing. Kobe White playing big minutes. LaVine, Caruso, DeRozan, Vucevic. I don't know. I think the Bulls, you want to set kind of a max number. You don't want to like full stack this spot. Like a rule that DC, that we talked about early on in the season is 1 max of the big 3 with Chicago. And that was LaVine, DeRozan, Vucevic. Now you got Kobe White entering the question, seeing a lot of minutes. He's a guy that we've been very high on. It's a tricky spot now to kind of figure out. I don't want to full fade this game. I think the Warriors are going to put up enough of a fight to where you get that back and forth. But I see Chicago comfortably winning, and I see the starters in there, in the fourth. So I'm going to treat it where it's like a 1 or 2 max, and it could be like a Caruso plus a Kobe White or a LaVine or DeRozan. And that's kind of how I'm going to treat the situation. And I would not be surprised if it was Vucevic as well. I do like bigs against this Warriors team. He played 40 minutes against Houston and put up a fine number. So again, the Bulls, a team that I definitely have interest in. I can't play the Warriors here. I don't trust the rotation. I've just been fading them, and I'm going to continue to do that. I've heard some talks of like Klay Thompson and stuff. I can't do it, man. I'm not playing anyone on the Warriors side. They've been too much of a disaster.
He's heating up.
DC.
Is that Klay Thompson?
DC,
Is he going to punish me?
It's you, AP. DC, Golden State, Chicago. The price for Vooch seems a little light on DraftKings. And then one thing I did take note of, the minutes are difficult, but you've got essentially Kevon Looney and Trayce Jackson-Davis splitting time at the center position. Looney is just 3,700. Jackson-Davis at 5,200. I think potentially those guys are in play in the pool. What are your thoughts here on the Bulls and the Warriors?
Yeah, to answer Boyden's question in the chat, I'm with AP. I think Chicago should be comfortably favored in this game, -2, -3, whatever it's at. Feels like to me. I think Chicago potentially kind of stumbled upon something here, missing LaVine and Vucevic, and the emergence of Kobe White. Right now, they've got kind of a true point guard that's playing really well for them. They got 4 guys who can really score the basketball. And they've been okay defensively. So. Yeah, I like Chicago to win this game. Golden State, man, I just think they're kind of done, to be honest. But they got to win games, right? Like they still want to get in the playoffs and at least have a chance. So they are going to play their guys, or at least they should be playing their guys in any reasonably close game. Obviously, last game they got absolutely blown out by the Pelicans at home. I actually think they could get blown out here too. It wouldn't shock me at all. But I'm with you, JT, on – it's such an uninspiring, unexciting play, but Kevon Looney at 3,700, like, especially in this matchup against Vucevic, if they put Jackson-Davis on Vucevic is going to get whatever he wants, right, and just kind of score a will. So it would make sense if this game is close, which I know I like Chicago to win it, but the line says it should be close throughout. It would make sense to play Kevon Looney, 25-plus minutes here in this matchup, especially given that they're shorthanded elsewhere. I don't think anyone else will play minutes at the 5 besides Looney and Jackson-Davis. So I like him. I'm off of Golden State in general, outside of Looney. And then I'm with AP. I think 1 or 2 max on Chicago, but I do think the 4 studs for Chicago all play pretty well. Obviously, all 4 aren't going to get there, but I wouldn't be surprised to see 1 or 2 get the job done.
This is one of the more entertaining groups that we've had in chat this season. DC, looks like your friend Kevin Connolly is heading back into Denver and wants to arrange a session with you. But DC, before we worry about that, we've got one more game left. The people got to 150 likes, so it looks like we're going to get the plays of the day. And the last game here, Charlotte heading into San Antonio. The Spurs favored by 2 points, 236.5 total. LaMelo Ball returns for this Hornet team. PJ Washington is doubtful. Mark Williams is going to miss again. Gordon Hayward is out. Cody Martin and Frank Ntilikina are questionable here in this one for San Antonio. Sidi Sissoko is going to miss once again, so we will not be including him in our player pool. Dominic Barlow questionable. Trey Jones remains starting. Wembanyama going to play tonight, likely sit tomorrow, DC. And this is maybe one of the more interesting decision points on this slate, with Wembanyama against a Charlotte team without Mark Williams, without PJ Washington. Even with those guys in, we like opposing centers. You've got Nick Richards, who couldn't defend you. And yes, we've got a 25, 26-minute limit on Wembanyama. You know, no big deal. He's just putting up 50 fantasy points in that limited run every night. Now he gets the Hornets. What are you thinking about Wembanyama and anyone else in this Spurs-Hornets game?
Man, Wemby is insane. Triple-double in 21 minutes against Detroit last time out. Man, what a future he has. Hope he can stay healthy. It's hard. It's still hard for me to play him with the minutes limit. I do wonder, given what we know about Popovich, if that minutes limit could be like lifted without warning some game. I don't know.
Yeah, it will definitely be without warning. Will it happen in our lifetime? I mean, I don't know, but go on.
Yeah, I don't know either. I'm just saying I wouldn't be shocked if he played like 31 minutes out of nowhere somewhere, if he's crushing in the EM and they're close to winning the game. I don't know. But yeah, I mean, he's going to kill it on a per minute basis. I think he's got a good shot at 50 again. So at 9,100, yeah, you can do it. I probably won't, but I certainly would not hate on anyone who's choosing to play Wemby. I'm not on any of the other Spurs. Wemby just doing so much for this team right now. Kind of hard for other players to get there, and they're pretty much fully healthy at the moment. And then Charlotte getting LaMelo Ball back. For me, that takes, an 8,800 Rozier completely out of play, takes an 8,200 Miles Bridges out of play. I don't know. I got to see Charlotte with LaMelo. I got to see these prices come down, and then we'll reconsider. But first game back for LaMelo Ball, I think the Charlotte Hornets, even with the injuries that they still have, are mostly overpriced.
All right. AP, thoughts here on Charlotte and San Antonio?
Yeah, again, like from a betting standpoint, I'm always far more intrigued with Hornets overs when LaMelo Ball's playing. It's kind of night and day. I mean, Ball, he just does so much to the pace of this game. And it's not like we're going to get full minutes, but I don't think you need full minutes with the total that I'm seeing, 237. Absolutely love the over. And, I mean, Wemby's going to get whatever he wants. He has been doing it. And screw Pop for limiting him to 25. Like, what's another 4 or 5 minutes going to do? Absolutely nothing. The kid is young. He looks healthy. He looks good. I mean, what he's doing is absolutely insane. So it's absolutely ridiculous. The Spurs I just fade the Spurs. They should, if they wanted to make it interesting, they should price Wemby mid 8Ks. I think it would be a little bit more intriguing. There's still a lot of risk there from a minute standpoint, but it's with him at 9,100, we need him closer to like 30 minutes. I think if we knew he was playing 30 minutes, that might be enough to really consider him in a matchup against the Hornets. It should be a front court that he absolutely smashes, like Nick Richards. I'm not worried about Nick Richards at all. So, but yeah, Trey Jones not playing, Devin Vassell, no interest in him. Spurs full fade, and then with LaMelo back from a DFS standpoint, becomes very difficult to pay a premium price tag for Terry Rozier. So I'm off of him, and then the same for Miles Bridges as well. So the Hornets slowly getting healthier. We can fade them, but love the over in this game.
Do you think? I mean, Nick Richards is still 5,700. Now he gets LaMelo Ball back, who's a better distributor. I think he could be in play, at least in multi-entry against the Spurs front court, considering that Wemby's only going to play 25 minutes. So that is the only play on the Hornets that I could see myself getting to, and I can't see myself getting to it very much. That does it for the main slate. Go ahead and opine in chat. Steve Boynton invited me to Chicago this weekend for a nice VIP event. Was that a fake invite because he knew it's going to be 0 degrees in Chicago and there's no chance in hell that I'm going to visit? Or was that sincere and he's sincerely disappointed that I'm not going to trek to Chicago in January? My actual comment was Chicago in January. Sounds fun. And then DC, we'll ask once again, have you done any legwork on finding a field so that you and Kevin, nice Kevin from our team, can go ahead and have that field goal contest? And what distance do you feel comfortable kicking from?
Put me on the record. That will be a 47-yard plus field goal going through the uprights in Kentucky, early March. On the record, it's happening.
That's still one of my favorite stories. Like, it's 3 a.m. We have like close to like 10K on the card table. Like, there's a lot of money on the card table. DC just like looks over and he's like, I can kick a 45-yard field goal. And then all the action just starts flying. And the weather was terrible. We're never going to be able to like accomplish it. Like, the weather.
I wake up in the morning. I can barely remember making the bet. And then it's like 33 degrees with like 38-mile-per-hour winds. I'm like, no, I'm not going to go freaking kick the field goal.
We were also literally like several states away from the nearest football field. Like, there was nowhere in or close to the area. As Mangone says, we can't find dudes that can kick 47-yarders in the NFL. But we've got 2 IPL coordinators that are going to kick it at 47 plus, straight through the uprights. Oh, it's going to be great. It's going to be great in March. But DC, I'm going to start with you because I'm a little torn on who my guy is going to be. But we'll start the proceedings with Mom's Basement Play of the Day.
We're going to go to a basement team, but hopefully not a basement player. We're going to go with Mr. Vince Williams Jr. All the injuries to the Memphis Grizzlies, I think it's going to lead to more minutes for Vince Williams, hopefully more production, coming off 2 of his better games of the season. Put up 37 fantasy points against Phoenix, 28 against Dallas, and 37 in 30 minutes. Now they've got even more injuries. And Williams, I believe, signed like the biggest contract, multi-year contract for a player on a 2-way deal on Wednesday after that Tuesday game. Got a 3-year deal. Big deal for him. And at home, he should be ready to go in this one and should have all the opportunity in the world given the injuries to the Grizzlies. So Vince Williams, Mom's Basement Play of the Day.
Vince Williams, definitely an off-the-chalk play, an interesting spot there. AP, we'll go to you. Gentleman's play of the day.
Yeah, it's tough right now without doing everything. But mine is going to be, now we need him to start. If he's in the starting lineup, I'm all on board. If not, for members, I will notify chat and we'll likely be changing it. But Jalen Smith, assuming he starts here against the Hawks, 5K. I know the rotational risk with this one, but I absolutely love this matchup. He's a good fantasy point per minute producer, 5K, positional flexibility as well. Jalen Smith is my play of the day.
Jalen Smith and Vince Williams. We'll keep it in.
Give us a good one, JT.
What's that?
We need a good play.
Was Jalen Smith bad? We got 2 bad ones.
No, I mean, listen, it's a great matchup.
Something a little more exciting than Jalen Smith and Vince Williams.
I don't know how exciting it is, but I'm going to go back to this spot. I played Jalen Johnson liberally the other night, and we've got Keegan Murray in the same spot at just 6,200. Keegan Murray has picked up where some of the other Kings have not gotten the job done. It's been him and it's been Sabonis, and I don't think that changes tonight with the injuries to the Philadelphia front court. So Keegan Murray is the Eiffel Tower play of the day. We are going to have a ton of content. If you're not a member, go ahead and sign up. Use code NEWYEAR15. Get into the Discord this evening. We've got an hour and a half until lock. There's going to be some injury news coming out, some probably lineup changes, as we've hinted at here, definitely for Miami, maybe for some of these other teams. And, of course, super wild card weekend. We've got a 6-game slate on DraftKings that'll cover the entire wild card weekend. We've got 2 marquee Millie Makers this weekend, and we will have you covered. We'll have Morning Wood on Saturday, Off the Chalk at 11 a.m. on Sunday. AP has some thoughts about our guy Steve Boynton. Just absolutely.
Is it Sunday?
Absolutely.
I think I put it on the calendar for tomorrow, so I'll have to get that changed.
I thought it was. I saw it on Sunday. I thought it was Sunday.
Sunday? All right.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
We'll confirm because I thought it was.
Yeah.
I thought it was tomorrow, but we'll get that confirmed.
Well, either way, we will have an Off the Chalk show at 11 a.m. either tomorrow or Sunday. And I thought you had a comment about Steve Boynton just dragging you guys over your plays. Now, Steve is the college basketball guy, so you can go ahead and have some differences of opinion.
Yeah, I mean, no, I would love to see her and say like a Malik Monk or something like that, or Tyrese Maxey, but we try to get a little bit different. So we try not to always like say the obvious plays. So
right.
Again, if he starts in this matchup, he's going to smash. But JT, I did bump up Keegan Murray in my heat map, so I'm with you on that.
I'm on the Keegan Murray train as well. All 3 of us are on the Keegan Murray train tonight.
Appreciate it. 6% ownership in what is. Hey, look, he's a primary scorer in what looks to be the most competitive game with a very nice, healthy 241 total. I'll go right back to him. And don't forget, you do have as well the college basketball show tomorrow at 10 a.m. For all you people in chat who are joining us for the first time and looking for a home, go ahead, subscribe. Run Pure Sports. For everyone else, get into the Discord. Good luck in your contests.